Welcome back. A Trump campaign source telling Fox News Digital that it does not want to, quote, get in the way of Democrats shooting at each other over President Biden's re-election chances, and that the former president, President Trump, prefers to focus on campaigning and the upcoming Republican National Convention instead of his rival's implosion. Biden, meanwhile, is pushing back against increasing calls for him to step aside. In a letter to congressional Democrats yesterday, Biden writes he's firmly committed to staying in this race, to returning this race to the end, and to beating Donald Trump, writes President Biden. Joining me now, the host of the Tudor Dixon podcast and former Michigan gubernatorial candidate, Tudor Dixon. Tudor, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to get to Michigan in a moment and these battleground states. But what do you make of Biden digging in, telling congressional Democrats, telling everybody who's calling for him to step aside, he's not going to do it?
I don't think we ever thought he was going to do it. This is his personality, and he's got Jill Biden behind the scenes pushing harder than ever. And just this morning, we're finding out she's in these Oval Office meetings. Democrats must feel more lied to than ever.
Yeah, I mean, some people have talked about Gretchen Whitmer being on the ticket, the governor of Michigan. She's trying to dismiss all the talk of her potentially being on the ticket, possibly replacing Biden or being Kamala's vice president, Democrat nominee. Whitmer told the Associated Press that she would not consider becoming a candidate this year, even if Biden were to step down, and that, quote, it's a distraction more than anything. I don't like seeing my name in articles, she claims, because I'm totally focused on governing and campaigning on the ticket. But, of course, Whitmer has a book. It's a new book coming out today. It's titled True Gretch. Reportedly, it does little to hide her political ambitions, Tudor. What do you make of Gretchen Whitmer potentially being on this ticket?
Oh, she said the same thing in 2020 about being the vice president. She said it was a distraction, even though her staff was already in Washington, D.C. looking at houses. They thought they for sure were on the ticket. She was very disappointed to find out it was going to be Kamala Harris. She is incredibly ambitious. This book was written overnight. We see things that were coming out just in February that are in this book today. This is shocking to think that she was writing a book right at the time that she knew it would be exposed that Joe Biden was suffering from cognitive decline. She's a co-chair of the campaign. In fact, I think that's the thing that has Democrat voters so upset right now, because they're looking at this and they're going, wait a minute, you all knew. Like I said, Jill Biden was in these Oval Office meetings. She's now the one campaigning. They're looking at this and they're saying, where is Joe? But Democrats are smart. They believe that if they can keep him hidden for the next 4 months, they can distract you with Jill Biden, they can distract you with Gavin Newsom, then you are not going to understand how severe the cognitive decline is. And if they can get him back in the White House, they will never have him come out again. There will be a shadow government. We won't know who's running it. We won't know, but let's be honest, the world will know. And we will have dictators in other countries who will realize that there is no strength in the United States, and there will never be peace through strength from the United States if Joe Biden is in office, because he is not strong enough, and Jill Biden cannot meet with world leaders and keep peace in this world.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible, this cover-up that has been underway now for a few years. I mean, look, we could have actually figured out this cover-up when Joe Biden spent the entire campaign of 2020 in the basement, right? They didn't want to show him off. He wasn't out. He was in the basement. Maybe that's when this whole cover-up was beginning. But I want to get your take on Michigan, one of the real important swing states. A new Emerson College poll sponsored by Democrats for the next generation and conducted after the first presidential debate finds that Biden is still trailing Trump in all of the most competitive battleground states by a 4-point average. But in Michigan, Trump is leading Biden by 1 point. 45% of voters there saying they'd support Trump. 44% say they'd support Biden. Tudor, you're in Michigan talking with constituents all the time. What can you tell us about what you've learned in terms of who is resonating in your state?
Well, Trump is definitely resonating right now. I think Democrats are in this emergency panic mode. Gretchen Whitmer was silent for a long time after the debate. She was putting out her own fundraising link instead of Biden's fundraising link. She got her hand slapped there, suddenly started tweeting, but she went dark over 4th of July weekend. Didn't attend any events, didn't go on the media. It was kind of shocking. Now, you look at the Attorney General, Dana Nessel, she starts tweeting out these cryptic tweets about Alex Morgan, who has has stepped out of soccer and saying, you know, at 35 years old, she realizes she's too old. She needs to step away. Everybody starts to say, hey, Dana, we see what you did there. So you've got the Attorney General of the state who's saying Joe Biden needs to step out of office. The Democrats are divided. They're trying to look for leadership. Leadership in the state is not coming to them and saying, hey, we've got this. Joe Biden's the guy. You have Rashida Tlaib, who is very upset with Joe Biden. So you've got the Arab community, which is significant in the state of Michigan, that has turned on Joe Biden. And I know Gretchen Whitmer right now is panicking because if she doesn't deliver Michigan, all of that ambition that you see in that book is going to suffer a major blow because she is not going to be looked at as a 2028 contender in the presidential race because she can't even deliver her own state. I believe she's in panic mode. She knows that the book is not a good look right now, so she didn't do the media circuit over the weekend. We'll see what comes in the next week with her and how she handles interviews in the next few days. If she's able to prop him up and try to make it sound like Biden is the guy, maybe she'll be able to bring the people back around her, but her other leading Democrats in Michigan are not confident in him.
So how do you think this plays out, Tudor? I mean, you know, I've spoken with some Democrats actually over the weekend, and one of them said to me, well, one idea that they are floating is to have Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket and Governor Shapiro from Pennsylvania as the vice president so that they could try to, you know, get Pennsylvania, another very important swing state. Other people are talking about Kamala at the top of the ticket and possibly Gretchen Whitmer as the vice president. Two women fighting for your abortion rights. What do you think? How does this play out? Or does Biden stick it out? The way Eric Schmidt from Missouri said and Miranda Devine said, it's going to be hard to take him out.
It is extremely hard for them to take him out outside of a 25th Amendment play. And even that is very hard to prove cognitive decline. And then you really have an issue where you see the Democrat Party split in half. And so I don't think they would attempt that. If they could convince him to step down, I think it would be a Kamala Shapiro or Kamala Bashir ticket, because I don't think you want somebody that's going to really stir the pot. I think they want to say, OK, we're going to have a male and a female on the ticket, and we're going to have somebody from the Midwest. So I think that a Bashir ticket would actually be their goal would be to have those two together. And if you listen to Andy Bashir, he's been out there like, Kamala and I have done a lot together. We've been able to achieve a lot for the state of Kentucky. I'm like, he is definitely going for it. I think that would be the play that they would want to go with. But I just don't think there's any chance of getting Jill Biden to back off. She seems to be the powerhouse behind this, and she's not going back to Delaware to play night nurse.
Yeah, and don't forget about Hunter Biden. He's right there next to Jill Biden trying to convince Joe to stick it out.
Right, absolutely. And for Joe, I mean, you think about it, he sees his family in danger, and he's certainly always been out there saying, family first, I'm a family man. Yeah. So how would it look for him to step down when his family is potentially in danger of, you know, his son could be in danger of going to jail?
Yeah, really interesting stuff here. We'll be covering it all the time. Tudor, good to talk with you. Thanks very much for joining me.